Hey, and welcome. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to upcycle a plain blouse and some kind of like t-shirt and sweater into a pretty Lolita cutsew like this. I guess I just want to make a quick disclaimer. This project isn't necessarily beginner friendly. Like, I'm here to teach you how to make the cutsew, so like I'm not really here to like teach you sewing skills. So like I'm gonna just say like make a ruffle or put the sleeves on. And I kind of am expecting, like, if you're doing this project, you have to kind of know what these things mean already. So like, sorry if you've never sewn before, please still try. It might totally work. Like, I did this for the first time and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I think I was like 14 and it still came out nice. So feel free to give it a shot, but just know, like, I'm kind of assuming that you have sewing experience as I make this tutorial. She's not very cute. She was not very flattering. This blouse, I really enjoyed the sleeves and the collar, and it was really nice covered buttons, but it was just super unflattering. And likewise for the sweater that I chose. I think when you go thrifting for a good blouse for this, you want to pick things that have nice collars and nice sleeves in terms of the details and are more or less the color you want. You also want to make sure that you get something that's like 2 to 3 sizes too big, because the bigger the thing is, the more fabric you're going to have to work with, like when it comes time to decorate. So just bear those things in mind while you shop and pick things that you think will work for you. For this project, you're going to need one dress shirt and some kind of sweater or long sleeve t-shirt. So the first step of this project is you're going to take your blouse and you're going to cut it just like I've shown here in the picture. And I'm going to label each piece so that we can keep track of what we're doing during the project. Next, you're going to take piece B and you're going to unpick both shoulder seams and then flip it over, kind of try it on really quick, and then start pin tucking until you're happy with how it sits on your shoulders. Once you're happy, take the collar piece over to the machine and then stitch down all the pin tucks. Once that's done, you're going to go ahead and grab your sweater and you're going to pin the front half of piece B to the front half of the sweater. Be careful not to pin all the way through. While we're here, you're also going to want to measure the length of your torso, or how long you want the cutsew to be, and mark that onto your fabric. At this point, you can go ahead and cut the cutsew to the right length, and then also snip the stitching in the side seams and cut the sleeves off. Next, you're going to take in the sweater part of your cutsew at the waist. Now, if you've never done this before, this tutorial isn't going to be very helpful, and I highly suggest you go search a video on how to do this, but basically, you're just going to cut, you know, like an hourglass waist into your shirt. So if you've never done this before, try it on and kind of see how much fabric is hanging off that you need to cut away. But, you know, if you're experienced, which I hope you are if you're doing this project, then go ahead and take in the waist however you want to. So next, you're going to fold your cutsew back out flat. Now that you've cut the side seams, you can do that. And then you are going to very, very, very carefully cut out the collar piece. And then when you're done with the front half, you should line up the shoulder seams on the bib piece, piece B, and then do the back half as well. Next, now that we've cut out the collar pieces, you are going to stitch everything together. So by now you should have a front piece of the sweater and the back piece of your sweater and the collar piece. So starting with that wide edge of the collar piece, you are going to pin a lot and then sew them in and then move on to the sides. If you did a round collar, this doesn't really apply to you. Just do your best and I will catch up with you in a second. Okay, so here we are. I have sewn in my collar bib panels, and I basically just used a straight seam and a zigzag stitch, nothing fancy. So now you're going to line up the edges of your cutsew, and you're going to sew up the side and the shoulder seams. So yeah, I used a French seam for the side seams because I thought it would just be a little bit sturdier, but for the shoulders I just did the straight stitch and the zigzag overlock, but really it's up to you. Now that those seams are all sewn up, it would be a good time to take a second, try on your cutsew, and make sure there's no like drastic things that need to be fixed. But if there are, take the time now and fix them. For me, I usually end up having to go in and enlarge the armholes in the front, and that's exactly what I did, but overall I was happy with mine. Next, you're going to take that excess fabric and the sleeves that you cut off from the sweater earlier, and from both sleeves you're going to remove the cuffs at the wrist, and from that excess fabric you're going to remove like the little weird t-shirt slash sweater waistband. After you cut them off, sew them all into one super long strip and then just make a simple ruffle to attach to the bottom of the cutsew. Obviously the next step is to take the ruffle you just made and attach it to the hem of your cutsew, and at this point I would honestly not be too worried about how even everything is. Just make sure that the gathers are even, and I would also recommend not making them super dense or super tight, otherwise the ruffle's gonna just like spring out from your waist rather than laying flat against your skirt. Now we're gonna take pieces C, also known as the sleeves, and make sure that they're both flipped right side out. Then you're going to flip the body of your cutsew inside out so that the not so pretty side is facing you. Then you're going to take your sleeve and slide it into the armhole so that the pretty side of your sleeve is facing the pretty side of the cutsew. Flip your sleeve around until the bottom seam of the sleeve is matched up with the side seam of the cutsew, and then put a pin on either side of that. Now what you're gonna do is basically pin symmetrically around the edge of the sleeve opening until you get about 2 inches away from the shoulder seam on either side. Just keep on pinning until all the extra fabric in the sleeve is bunched up towards the very top of the armhole. Now take a needle and thread and just use a running stitch to sew up all that extra slack in the sleeve and gather it so that it fits the armhole. Pin it and then sew around the entire edge of the sleeve, and then repeat it on the other side. Doesn't look super cute from this angle, but everything fits. Everything's there, but of course this is a Lolita cutsew, so you know we're not done here. From now, we basically have to use the body of the shirt part of the cutsew to make a bunch of ruffle. Okay, so take piece A from your blouse and then cut one of the side seams so you can lay the thing out flat, and then try and cut it up, making strips that are as long as you can. And as for the width of your ruffles, for this type of cutsew, to make ruffles that go on the collar, it's best that you pick strips that are wide enough that you can fold them in half and then make the ruffles with that little tube so that they'll have a lot of structure. So, you know, usually for me that's like 2 to 3 longish strips. Make sure to unpick any like pleating or pin tucks that your blouse might have in the front, like mine did. Okay guys, we're in the home stretch, so now take your ruffles and fold them in half like I mentioned earlier, and basically you're gonna sew across that top edge of the ruffle and then start gathering when it's folded in half. If you want, also feel free to make pleated trim, that's what I did. Something to note here, it's honestly easier just to like use a running stitch and a needle and thread and just hand sew all the trims on. Otherwise you have to kind of like wrestle the machine around the edge of the cutsew, and my fabric was really thick so I was worried I was going to break the needle. So, you know, just saying, I hand stitched it, but if you want to use the machine, if you can, go ahead. At this point, it's also totally not a bad idea to take your naked cutsew and then add some lace and little ribbons to the front like I did. You could do this even if the bib is round, or even if you don't have the pin tucks, like go ahead and throw something on there. Alright, so once you've sewn on all your trim and decoration, you can be on your merry way and enjoy your blouse. As you can see, I chose to make a little ribbon rosette out of the scraps of fabric. Originally, I was gonna add a necktie to my blouse, but once I made the necktie and tried it on with the collar, it just looked horrible, so I cut it up and made that little rosette. And I'm not gonna show you how to do that here, but I will link a tutorial in the description. So, yeah. I hope everybody's cutsews turn out cute, and I hope you have fun sewing.